Hey, what's up, guys? It's Donovan Kid here. That's my name. Don't wear it out. Okay, I won't. I did write like a whole fucking script for this. Not a whole fucking script. I wrote half of a script, but I decided I'm kind of just gonna like freestyle it because I want a sort of more chill, laid back vibe for this video because I don't want to have to do too much editing because I came up with this kind of at the last second, and if I spend forever editing it, then it won't come out on time. So we're just going for pure, improvised, whatever the fuck, I guess. Hell yeah. So today is April 20th, aka 420, and you know what that means. It's time to get high as balls. Now, I love watching movies in general, but like many others, I especially love watching them when I am high as balls. Last year on 420, I watched Pineapple Express, and it was basically everything I hoped it would be. This year, I don't know what to watch because I'm really busy. I have to do my taxes and I have to go to the gym, so I'm just not sure where weed comes into the picture. I have this edible. I'll probably do my edible during class. I'm thinking it should probably look like I'm high for this video, right? That would be appropriate. I don't have any weed, so I think I'm just gonna... Here, I'm gonna set the microphone down. This is a really good idea. I'm just gonna hold my eyes open until they start to water and get red, and then I'll be ready to record. Just give me a second. This will only take a minute. Okay. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Do I look stoned? I think I just look like I've been crying. This is so sad. Anyway, since it is 420, I figured it would be cool to make a video about the best movies to watch on this blessed holiday if you are going to participate in getting stoned out of your fucking mind. So the first thing I think you should consider is what kind of vibe you got going on. Are you smoking indica or sativa? What is the snack situation? Are you by yourself? Are you with a couple close friends? Are you with a big group of people? Do you know these people? Are you in your walls? So because there's so many factors, there's a wide variety of films to choose from. But I think the obvious place to start is with the classics, or the movies that everyone says that you should watch on 420. I already mentioned Pineapple Express, and I think that's a great choice. Obviously, Seth Rogen is sort of like the face of weed. I think Pineapple Express is probably the best of his selection, but you could also pick maybe This Is the End or Sausage Party or The Interview, which I don't even like, but it would probably be pretty funny if I was high.
I am a homosexual.
Seth Rogen's just a side character in this, but there's also Superbad, which is like arguably the funniest movie ever made.
Why the fuck would it be between that or Muhammad?
One of the other obvious classics people talk about is The Big Lebowski, which, like, yeah, obviously great movie for 420. I think a lot of the Coen Brothers movies would actually work here. Raising Arizona, or Barton Fink, or Burn After Reading, or Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, or Fargo. I think those would all be, like, you probably wouldn't want to watch No Country for Old Men if you were super high. That movie is kind of dark. It's pretty deep and serious. You'd probably just be like, fuck, dude, I am straight up not having a good time right now. There's still a few Coen Brothers movies that I really need to see, like Miller's Crossing, but perhaps the most famous 420 stoner quintessential whatever the fuck movie is Dazed and Confused, and I haven't seen that either. So in a lot of ways, I'm really not even qualified to make this video. Regardless of whether I've seen it, I am making this video and I am recommending it either way. And then there's one more classic weed film I want to talk about, and that's Reefer Madness. It's different from the other classic 420 movies in that this is actually a government propaganda film from the 1930s about the dreaded marijuana. Basically, the plot of this movie is a high school principal who is giving a lecture to parents, and he's explaining like why marijuana is bad, and he tells them this story that becomes like the events of the film, in which it's like these high school kids and they go to this drug dealer's house, and they each like take one hit of the booth and instantly become violent psychopathic murderers. And I know you're thinking that sounds like it's kind of awesome, but this movie was made in the 1930s and it was also made by the government, and it just kind of sucks. Like it should be so much funnier than it is, but it's actually kind of boring.
These high school boys and girls are having a hop at the local soda fountain. Innocently they dance. Innocent of a new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
So although Reefer Madness isn't really like a so bad it's funny kind of movie, there are a lot of movies like that I think would be great for 420. Definitely you have to start with The Room, which is hilarious and will never stop being funny.
In a few minutes, bitch.
But there's also the Sharknado series, and that kind of spawned movies like The Velocipaster or Lamageddon, which are so fucking ridiculous. There's The Incredible Bulk, Love on a Leash, or Birdemic Shock and Terror. Just the worst shit. There's a shit ton more examples of these movies, and honestly, you can probably find one. Just like if you have Amazon Prime, just scroll for a while and you'll find something with like 4 ratings on it, something you've never heard of, and like you look it up, it has like a 2.5 on IMDb. And this kind of like so bad it's good or so bad it's funny movie, those are really good for if you're in like a big group setting, because then you can all like make fun of it together and throw tomatoes at the screen. But then there are also some comedies that are funny on purpose and like are actually just good. I already talked about Superbad, which is great, but the year after Superbad, Tropic Thunder came out, and that might also be the funniest movie ever made. And then the year after that, Black Dynamite came out, and that also might be the funniest movie ever made. I think the 3 of those coming out in a row, like probably top 3 funniest movies of the 2000s. But there's also Napoleon Dynamite is up there. And then there's American Psycho. Those top 5 funniest movies of the 2000s. Those would all be great picks. Although like American Psycho is almost like too good for weed. Like if you're watching American Psycho, just do coke. For some comedies that are a little bit older, you could look at like Kevin Smith movies. Most of what he's made is pretty mid, but I think Mallrats is pretty funny and Clerks is pretty good. There's also Coneheads, which is just the weirdest shit, but it's the kind of humor that if you were really high, you would giggle at, because they're just dumb voices and they just have like tall heads, and it's just dumb, but you would giggle a lot. A little older than that, and you've got This Is Spinal Tap, which is just a great movie in general, but it's another movie where like I think the humor would hit really well specifically when you're high. And I think the reason for that is just because the accents in that movie are so funny.
I do not for one think that the problem was that the band was down. I think that the problem may have been that there was a Stonehenge monument on the stage that was in danger of being crushed by a dwarf.
And then I also want to shout out Fast Times at Ridgemont High, because I think that really deserves to be in sort of the same category as The Big Lebowski and Dazed and Confused. It's got Sean Penn as one of the best, like he's grained out the entire movie and he's so good. It's also got that perfect 80s John Hughes coming of age kind of vibe, and also is directed by a woman, and you know, shout out to women.
Hey bud, what's your problem?
No problem at all. I think you know where the front office is.
You dick!
Even older than those movies, and you know, I have to once again talk about Adam West Batman. That shit, the fucking bang pow effects and the bat shark repellent and just the totally over the top dialogue, that shit would all be so good. For some funny movies that are a little bit more recent, you've got stuff like 21 Jump Street or Deadpool, that kind of thing. Another recent movie I would recommend is Sorry to Bother You. I remember watching this in the theater and seeing the ending and just being like, what the fuck? This is kind of dumb. but I think if I saw it when I was really high, I might have thought the ending was the best part, because it just goes so far out there. It just gets so weird. But I think if I was in the right state of mind, I would A, have appreciated that more, and B, I think I would have thought it was actually like a genius decision. If I was too high, I would have been like, no. And if I wasn't high enough, I probably would have still been like, this is dumb. But if I was in just the right spot, I'd have been like, Sorry to Bother You has the greatest ending of any film ever. I also would say, for something a little more niche, you could look at Shrek Retold, which is just this like Frankenstein's monster of a film in which 100 different teams worked together and they each made like 1 minute of Shrek. It's the kind of thing where it's just like so much is happening so fast that like it's good for weed, because you're just like, yeah. And then the same kind of thing could be applied for Kung Fury, which like just random shit happens in that movie. Like they're time traveling and there's Hitler and there's dinosaurs, or like I honestly, like I don't even, they're both on YouTube for free. You can just like search them up and watch them. So that's part of why I recommend them. Kung Fury also sort of bleeds into my next category, which is just like movies that fucking look cool and shit. These aren't necessarily like the most beautifully cinematographied movies of all time, and they're not necessarily the coolest movies of all time either, but it's the kind of visual stimuli that really hits when you're baked. I would recommend Hardcore Henry. That would be cool, because if you were high enough, you would just like think it was happening to you, and like when the credits were over, you would be super confused. You would be like, wasn't I just fighting like 100 people? Yeah, that would be awesome. There's Speed Racer, which I think would just be like that's the kind of thing where your eyes would be glued to the screen, because like what the fuck are you even looking at? There's the Charlie's Angels movie from 2000. That one is fucking crazy. That one definitely has a similar vibe to Kung Fury, where it's like shit is just happening, over the top shit, these crazy set pieces, and it also has Lucy Liu in it, so it's just complete eye candy.
You.
Kung Fu Hustle and Shaolin Soccer. These are two Stephen Chow movies that are just like so wild and over the top. Like it's the kind of shit that's gonna constantly blow your mind if you're high. There's like really heavily stylized action movies. This is probably the route I would go. Shit like Sin City, or From Dusk Till Dawn, or The Book of Eli, or Tron Legacy. Those would all hit. Especially Tron Legacy with the fucking Daft Punk set. Yeah. And then there's also sort of a subset within this category of movies that are super visually like, whoa, but you have to be careful about watching them, because they could definitely be anxiety inducing. You know, be careful about this. But if you're feeling up to it, some movies with some visuals that will really, really get you going are like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, or The Mask. I think that would low-key be scary. Suspiria. I haven't seen the remake, but Dario Argento's version. Angst. The Lighthouse. Mandy. Dracula, the Francis Ford Coppola version. A Gaspar Noé film. I haven't seen Enter the Void. That's probably the obvious pick here. But also Climax, although I feel like that's even more likely to give you an anxiety attack and make you throw up. And then also basically any animated movie works perfectly for this category, where you're just looking for something cool to look at. I would recommend specifically something like Millennium Actress or Paprika, because those are both so trippy. But also I just have to talk about Akira, because I think Akira has the best animation of any movie ever, and the fight scene at the end would just absolutely melt your brain. The one problem with a movie like Akira is that the story is pretty intricate, and like you do have to be paying attention to follow it, even if you're sober. If you're slowed down because you're high, like you've got no chance. You have no chance. It's like watching Inception backwards. You would just have no idea what's going on. But sometimes that's not a bad thing. So like if you smoke a lot and you get really tired and you just become slump and like greened out, that's another category of movies there, in my opinion. So these are all movies for when you get really high and like something you don't need to be invested in the story in. You just watch the flickering images and like it carries you off to sleep. So I think a movie like this, Chef, I didn't really love this movie. Chef would also be good if you're hungry. Like that's obvious. Like sleepy or hungry, Chef. You know, just sleepy as the rest of these movies. I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood would be good. It's just like a super laid back movie. You'd probably fall asleep before the ending, but if you didn't, you would probably be less high by that point because it's pretty long, and you'd be like, holy shit, this ending fucking whips ass, because it does. Stanley Kubrick movies, these are obviously very visually gratifying, but I think if you just put on like Barry Lyndon, like you could fall asleep to that no problem. I think The Neon Demon would be a good movie to watch if you're sort of greened out, because like it's really slow paced, but the visuals are always like it's really the dangling keys effect, I think. But it's also sort of, fuck, what is that thing babies have over their cribs? It kind of works like that, even though it's a fucked up movie. Maybe I'm just like messed up. I think a lot of Charlie Kaufman movies would be good for this because they sort of have this, they're way too complicated to follow if you're high, like you can't wrap your head around them, but they just sort of have this vibe that like, this sort of dreamy vibe, so it would carry you very naturally into a state of sleeping. Terrence Malick movies are just sort of so pretty to look at. You could watch them with the sound off or the sound on. It's almost like the movie is passing through you or something, you know? Pink Floyd The Wall. This one might even be like a whole separate category. Like you could probably, this one you could fall asleep to. It could also fit in the visual category. Also in this category, I've talked a lot about like watching a movie with the sound off if you're really tired and you're trying to fall asleep or something. But you could do the same thing, like maybe watch a foreign movie without subtitles. You have no idea what they're saying, but that sort of like induces a sleepiness. It's a little more relaxing sometimes when like you're not trying to process what the words are. You're just like, yeah. There's a lot of movies I could put here. Specifically, I've written down A Pigeon Sat on a Branch Reflecting on Existence, which is super slow and has this, it's a good movie for if you're greened out, but it's also a good movie for if you want to like really focus on it. That's not what this video is about. 2046, same thing. Cleo from 5 to 7, Kagemusha, Roma, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Rififi, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, Koya Niskatsi, and Samsara. Basically, all of those movies have like a similar deal where it's either you should either be paying full attention to them and like get the best experience out of them you can, or you should be like drooling out of your mouth as you're watching them. That's the other way to do it. Or at this point in writing the script and now in recording the video, I've realized that basically all this is just me listing the names of movies I've heard of. Like I've talked about several movies I haven't even seen at this point, so it's like, what am I doing? In a way, I also think the fact that all I've done is just like list a bunch of movies is sort of like a point in and of itself in a way, because it's like the point is you could watch any movie when you're high, and not necessarily that it would be better, but like watching movies when you're high is just like always a good idea. I'm gonna wrap things up now. I just want to say that a lot of the movies I talked about, maybe even most of them, could probably fit into multiple of the categories I had. I think the categories, look, this video's kind of a mess. All right, if I do like a 420 video next year or in the future or something, I will try to have a little bit more structure, and maybe I will make an actual point or something. Probably not though. But that is going to wrap this video up. So thank you for watching. I have to edit this now. It is 1 a.m. Fuck. Okay, hopefully this video isn't too fucking long.